Sorry.
Quick hello. Now we're going to go to the intro.
Year one pass.
Hey guys, how you doing? Reels. Episode 38. This is the last episode of the year.
Right now, go and check to see how much
It's finally done. This year is almost finally over.
I was going to buy the pass, and then I went and saw that the most expensive edition.
Sorry.
I think we have a guest.
I apologize. My husband's gaming behind me, so you might hear some opinions.
I'm curious. What's the gaming?
Bryan,
So if you do that,
That-
you want a reaction.
intro is epic. Who did that for you?
That was done by our very own Josh Balor.
I need to talk to someone about doing an intro for Back of the Cereal Box because that is epic.
Yeah, man. I found
Josh
the
is really
music
good.
on YouTube when there's a royalty free. You know, I was just one day going through like everything. I was like, you know, I love movies, I love TV, I love wrestling. I wanted like something that would like I didn't want something like poppy or smooth. You know, I wanted like because a lot of the wrestling themes are more like rock. You know, so I found something that just fit the show, and I went and you know, Eric Hawkins did the logo. He drew the logo for me. And I had an intro done by Paul Wolf, and it was kind of a tempting until I can get something. And Josh Bauer started, you know, doing show intros and he even creating logos, which he does very well too. And I sent him an idea, and he's like, I can come up with something, and that's what he came up with.
It's great. It's great. Love it.
Yeah, the intro, yeah, man. The Josh Bauer just kills the intros. I will get you his information.
Yeah, please do. That would be great.
Yeah. So today's episode is a 2020 retrospective, not only on Reels and Heels, on where we've come since January to now, but over the year, you know, TV shows ended, movies came out, or maybe not came out. And some things happened in the wrestling world that were unexpected, especially during the pandemic. So we're going to talk about all of that. But John, what did you get for Christmas yesterday? I saw some photos, but I think our fans would love to see what you got, if you have anything near you.
Yeah, so I got the family edition of Cards Against Humanity. I had never played Cards Against Humanity because it is so vulgar, as I've heard. But my daughter got me the family edition because she wants to play it. And, you know, there are some rules in the house about vulgarity. So we're going to play that tonight. I got this. The Marvel Legends Captain America shield with the leather straps. And yes, very love it.
I was watching your show this morning, John, and I squeed like a little girl.
Yeah, and then I don't think I can reach them. Hold on, maybe I can. Talk about yourselves.
All right, well, I will show you. I showed before we went on live, but I've been wanting this for the last couple of months.
That is awesome.
It is all the Friday the 13th in one box set.
The box art looks amazing.
I know. I forgot who did the artwork, but he's done quite a few of the art for Shout Factory. So,
Right.
Star Wars Black Series.
Yeah, I started a new character.
The Beskar Mando. Very difficult to find, and Ahsoka from the Rebels series. I'm hoping they do a Mandalorian version of Ahsoka. She's my favorite Star Wars character of all time. And so finally got this, and love those characters. I don't collect all Black series. I collect specific characters. Characters I like. I have an affinity for the female characters because
so before Ahsoka, who was your favorite character then? Before she came around,
Vader.
Vader.
Yeah. And then I finally the last thing I got. This is my favorite thing. This is a book. It's a hardcover edition of Adventure Man, the comic series by Matt Fraction and Terry Dodson. And it is a diesel punk, deco punk action adventure set in the present and in the past. And this is a deluxe oversized edition. A normal comic is about a third of this. So this is this giant hardcover. And there's bonus material in here. And when I was buying the individual issues, I think I must have missed an issue because I'm seeing panels of artwork in here that I don't remember reading prior. So
Ryan is jealous of you.
He wants to.
Though it doesn't take much to make him jealous, though. I've noticed.
Well, Ahsoka is impossible to find. She flies off the shelves. But luckily, I have a friend who is an insider with Hasbro and Lucasfilm, and he sent me one.
I was looking on Amazon throughout the week, and they have one listed. It's like $42.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's a good price compared to the Mando that you got, which was more of like around $60 or higher.
Well, there are two previous Ahsoka Black series figures. There's the Clone Wars Ahsoka, and there's two Clone Wars Ahsokas. Young Ahsoka and older Ahsoka, and then this one is the version from Rebels.
Yeah, that's the one I saw for $42 on Amazon.
Yeah. But that was my Christmas. The rest was all closed, save Ferris. December is my birthday month, and I get birthday gifts from friends and from myself all month long. So on back of the cereal box, every week we've got loot to show, and that's a regular part of our Saturday morning show anyway. Is hey, look what we discovered this week, and this morning was a treasure trove episode. It was a lot of fun.
So you say December is your birthday month as well as Christmas. So you're turning 16, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now you're old enough to drive.
Absolutely. And it's a good thing too, because I got stuff to hunt down. I'm going to be at the comic shop tomorrow hunting a few other things down, but yeah.
Did you see I love collecting art books, especially like the Marvel movie ones, like the art of whatever insert Marvel movie. There's one for The Mandalorian for season 1. And a lot of people are buying it. It's hard. I know, like last time I looked on Amazon, it was sold out. But that's definitely something I want.
Barnes and Noble has it in stock. I'm not a big fan of those books in general. I don't know why. I've never really gravitated toward them. But I mean, people who love the art of type books love them, and I think it's cool.
I'm a huge film fan in general, so I like getting a lot of the art of just to see the concept art because, there's some people that just like movies, just like to watch movies and don't care about anything else. But like, I love the inner workings of cinema, like how things were made, and so that stuff fascinates me. So like my Marvel books, I have, I don't know, about 15 of the Marvel books. I have the making of the first the 2014 Godzilla.
Oh, okay.
And I also have the Crystal Lake Memories, which is about Friday the 13th. It's very in-depth. Like, there's interviews with people that you would think would want to go away from the series, like Kevin Bacon. They actually had interviews with Kevin Bacon in there. That's a good one. And that's actually signed by over 40 of the cast and crew from all 12 films.
Very cool.
Yeah. So what about you, Willow? What'd you get? What did hubby get you?
All right, I will show you in just a sec.
Well, while she's doing that, did you have a nice Christmas though? Did you have a good meal and all that?
Oh yeah, it was great. You know, for the first time, it was just me, my wife, and my 2 kids. You know, normally we might have my dad here or other friends over. We always invite the quote unquote family less friends to join us for Christmas. But this year just couldn't really do that. And so it was just the 4 of us. And had a great dinner. And then we went and saw Wonder Woman 84. And I have thoughts and reviews on that. We watched, actually, my daughter and I watched Soul after breakfast and before we ate dinner. So
Soul was so good. And we'll actually,
I
we're going to
just
do
saw
a
the trailer to it. It was really, it's really sweet.
Yeah. And it's funny. I always say Soul starring Mark B. Lee. And if you are a fan of Mark B. Lee Saturday morning cartoons, you'll know why, because the character in Soul looks just like they just took Mark and animated him. So that's the running joke. And it was actually brought to Mark's attention earlier this year when the first trailer came out, when the movie was supposed to originally come out, I think in June, was it? June or July, I think it was supposed to come out. And the trailer had come out, and on his thing, he talked about how he was interested in it. And in the comments, someone said, "Mark, I didn't know you were in a Disney animated film." And then he said, after watching it again, you're like, "You're right. I didn't know I was animated." So it started from there. So it looks like Willow's back with what she got for Christmas.
All right. So how me and my husband started dating was he showed up at my house one day with his binder of comic cards and that was his romantic gesture to me. So and due to moving around, I ended up losing them and having them stolen. So he ended up finding them on eBay. 3 different sets, and so that's his romantic gesture to me for Christmas.
Are those the suspended animated? Oh,
they are, and beautifully done art. Like huge fan of them.
Yeah, so I've got a big collection
We're not allowed
of
to do any of that. So I'm
loose
buying,
cards, but
I know.
I have
but
a
I'm going.
collection of A-Team trading cards from Topps, a complete collection of Dick Tracy, and a complete collection of the Phantom movie trading cards, and a complete collection of the entire Young Indiana Jones series. And I've got those still sealed in the box.
So you have the whole box complete.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I just have a bunch of random loose ones, Marvel's first covers and famous appearances and, DC Elseworlds cards. And you know what? I'm not even sure where that tin, they're in a tin.
Yeah.
And I need to find those, but the other ones are in binders. Maybe the 8, and I used to have a complete set of the original trilogy Star Wars cards from Topps, and like a dummy, I sold them in a yard sale when I was, in high school, because the movie was over, no one was into Star Wars anymore. It was the dark times, there was no chance in hell we were getting new Star Wars back then. So
yeah, with the movie industry, it's not like wrestling, you know, where they always say never, you know, in the movies, you know, with Star Wars especially, they thought Return of the Jedi was it.
Yeah. So I wish I'd kept a hold of them. You know, I've got some regrets of things that I've gotten rid of over the years. Kind of learned my lesson on some of those, but anyway.
You know, I love that set that you got there, Willow. That series, all the cards had good artwork, but the suspended animated cards were my favorite.
They are so beautifully done. I almost want to make put it on. Yeah, I want to frame them.
It's cool because
honestly.
they're like it's like a clear card with just the animation, and it kind of reminds me of in Superman when they're trapped in what is that thing called?
Kandor. Oh, no, the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, and then like they're just floating in space.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite one that you have there?
Favorite one? Oh, you know what? That's a good question.
I know there's suspended animation for mine. My favorite one was the Silver Surfer, because the way they had the animation of Silver Surfer.
Oh yeah, the Silver Surfer's one is really pretty.
Okay, cool. Okay, there's that one there.
No, I'm gonna have Silver Surfer is really pretty, and so is the Venom one. Like the Venom one's really nice too.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite trading card of all times was the Topps Star Wars series, the original run, the blue banner, the blue frame cards, and it's just the Luke Skywalker costume screen test shot. He's just standing there in front of a plain background, and you know they were just doing the final costume test shots. And
so
that's
what year was the set from then? About
77.
Oh, it's 77. Okay.
77, 78, yeah. And they those cards on the back had a picture, and if you collected the entire set, you could put them together and create the new picture and frame it or whatnot. It's very cool. Hello, Nicole.
I made it.
Hello.
It was questionable there for a minute.
Now we're gonna have a crazy dog because every time you start
acting like this, as soon as I sit down, I sit down at the table and he's like,
"That's all right. I got a crazy dog behind me. He's being good right now, but
he's fine. No, because I also sat down with food, so he's like, "Forget the peanut butter in my bone, Mom. What were you thinking?"
Yeah, I'd rather have the burrito.
I'd rather have the burrito you have. No, I don't know what we were talking about.
Well, we were just talking about what we got for Christmas and how our Christmas was. So you want to show them?
My new favorite guilty pleasure is ridiculous, but I was late to the party on this one. So
you know what? I've not seen that show yet.
I love how you announced it on our chat saying that you got nothing but shit.
Yeah. I had nothing but shit for Christmas. It was great. So I got the complete collection, the complete series, and my T-shirt, of course.
And then part of your present came today, but the mail person.
Yeah, well, the mail person's lazy and didn't want to deliver it to the actual gate to the person, walking out. Why is the light not on?
I figured I didn't need the light right now, but.
Okay, well.
So I'll start with you, John. We're going to talk about 2020, and we're going to be real about it. So from your eyes, what were the positives and negatives looking back at 2020? Outside of the political realm, but more like in the entertainment realm and all that.
Yeah, so I mentioned this morning. One of the worst things that happened, with COVID and that being a thing is that we had so many conventions just shut down and close up shop, and a lot of them will never come back. That was one of the worst things, but at the same time, and I said it this morning, I think it was one of the best things that happened. It really forced conventions to take a hard look at what they're doing and decide, do we need to continue doing this or not? Because there are a lot of conventions out there. You know, in 2019, there was a major geek culture, pop culture convention every weekend, everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was impossible to keep up. It was impossible to, go to everyone, obviously. But a lot of those conventions had been going on for years and years and losing money for years and years and years. And a lot of the organizers kept doing it out of a sense of obligation, out of, this desire to maintain tradition, but they really should have shut down years ago. And so along comes the coronavirus pandemic, and the choice was taken away from them. And now they had to shut down and postpone or go digital. And a lot of organizers have been like this because they knew they were going to lose money again. There was one convention here in Nashville that has lost over $20,000 a year for the last 3 years. And they've been floating it on personal loans and credit cards. And that the organizers this year were like, thank God. We don't have to be the bad guys. We can blame.
Was that the bigger one because I know Wizard World has a Nashville show, or is this another show?
This is a smaller one, but we had two really big shows. MTAC, Middle Tennessee Anime Convention, is one of the largest anime conventions in the country, and they closed down. They said they were going to go digital, but they really didn't do anything to speak of. And now they've already postponed in 2021 because they're supposed to do Easter weekend, and they're just basically saying we're going to wait another year, which means they're not coming back. They're huge, but they were also losing in the neighborhood of $35,000 a year in revenue. And so, the organizers have been doing it out of this sense of obligation to the fans. But when you take that decision away from them and, let them cancel without any, repercussions or anger from the fans, because the fans are like, well, you're doing what you need to do to keep everybody safe. We hate it, but, it's the right thing to do. And that's happening all over the country. And the end result is when we do get to come back to in-person conventions in 2021, and it will happen late summer, fall, we'll start to see those big cons return. There will be fewer of them, and there will be less of an emphasis on celebrity autographs. It will be less of an autograph celebrity meet con and more of a real community interactive type of convention. And I think that's going to strengthen everything in a really profound way. We get away from the money grabs, and the conventions that will survive and come back will be the ones that are really serious about creating and maintaining community. And I think that was a good thing in 2020. A lot, one of the good things that came out of 2020 is this platform that you're using, StreamYard, and the other type of platforms similar to it that have become accessible to us. I mean, these streaming platforms existed, but they were way too expensive or, really hard to learn the software, big learning curve. But COVID-19 made this kind of technology accessible to everyone. And, now we're getting great high quality stream programming, and everyone can take advantage of it. And in a lot of ways, that's actually brought us closer together, even though we can't be in the same room at the same time. So That's been good. The real bad part about 2020 is the indecision among film studios about their movie releases. We've got so many movies in the can that, okay, so not all the theaters are accessible. Not everyone can go to a movie theater, but Black Widow should have been released on Disney Plus. And, the only reason it wasn't is because they had such a bad experience with Mulan. Now, Mulan broke even, it made money, but the backlash from fandom was so negative because they were charging the $39.99 for, to buy it the same day it would have been out in theaters, right? Well, Disney's got to make that money back somehow. They can't just release a movie for free. Now, people watching this are going to say, well, wait a minute. They did that for Soul. They released it free on Disney Plus. They did, and it was the best movie I've seen this year, by the way. But the reason they did that was as a kind of a Christmas gift to their fans to say, listen, we heard you about the Black Widow, about the Mulan thing. You're already paying a subscription for Disney Plus. It was unfair of us to ask you to pay a premium on top of that to see a new movie release. So, we're going to give you Soul as a Christmas gift, and we're going to focus on, proprietary net programming for the Disney Plus channel. And, you'll get the movies in the theaters in the spring and summer. Now, will they also release to Disney Plus like Warner Brothers is doing with HBO Max? I think they're going to have to. And I think that COVID has forced Hollywood to look at their model and to reassess their distribution model. But more than that, it's forced theaters to look at stepping up their game. And I talked about this with a friend of mine, Lucas Leverett, who was like, it's really forcing theaters to improve the fan experience. If you can, you can't watch a movie at the same digital resolution at home, even on a 4K TV, that you can in the theaters with the sound and the full immersive experience. And
because the laser projection is the highest resolution that you can get.
Yeah. And there's just something about the entire immersive experience that you just don't get at home. And for some people, that's okay. They would rather just watch it in the comfort of their own home. Okay. I want to be in the immersive experience. That's why last night we could have watched Wonder Woman 84 on HBO Max. We have it, but we chose to go to the theater because it's a different experience.
Right. Like movies in general at a theater, you want to laugh with everybody and cry and, horror films scream, jump, whatever.
It's the polarization of the audience. And, when you're in the theater, you don't have the kids jumping up to run downstairs to get a snack. You don't have the dog barking. You don't have, in this case, my wife going, talking and asking, what's going on? Why are they doing that? You know what? I started the movie at the same time you did. Let's watch together. And those questions will be answered. So,
right.
I try to be good about that. I really do. There are some times when I'm just like, I don't get it. What's going on? I try though.
It's definitely easier to lose yourself in the theater than it is to be when you're at home and everything else is distracting you.
Yeah, I'm very much a movie in the movie theater kind of guy, and even though we watched Soul on Disney Plus in my office, it was good to watch, but it wasn't an experience. And even though I don't have kind words to say about Wonder Woman 84 or Monster Hunter, which I saw on Wednesday, there's good things in that we got to do it in the theater and have the theater experience. And, even though they were not great movies, it was a lot of fun to just get out and to do that experience again.
Right.
My issue with the whole HBO Max and because I'm in Canada, we don't have HBO Max. We have to basically we're piggybacking off another streaming service called Crave for HBO. And my cable provider is charging $30 to rent it on video on demand. Now my husband's like, no, we're gonna wait till the movie comes out, because if we're gonna spend that much money, we're gonna wait for the damn DVD to come out. That way we have all the special features like Bryan said earlier.
Well, when we watched Mulan, we did buy Mulan for Disney Plus. We had another family over. We spent the $39.99 or the $29.99. I don't remember what it was, but when we broke it down individually, it was $5 a person. And to me, that was a great value. And I have no problem with studios doing that. But they did a horrible job marketing the whole concept and helping people who were Disney Plus subscribers understand why it wasn't free to them on Disney Plus. And, I think, those things that seemed like, controversial things or bad things to the geek community are actually, in hindsight, which in just a few days, hindsight is 2020.
See what you did there.
Yeah. But in hindsight, those things that a lot of people think are bad turned out to be really good. And of course, the best thing that happened this year was we got a great TV series with Stargirl on CW. I would dare say that was the best comic book superhero TV show made to date. And we got The Mandalorian Season 2, which is the biggest Christmas gift to every Star Wars fan out there that could have ever been given. It was epic.
Yeah. And to go back to when you were talking about the movie theaters and, stuff being released at home versus stuff at theaters and people complaining, a lot of people don't understand the business side of things.
That's right.
The studios need to make money, too. They're a business just like any other business. And I know HBO Max and the Warner Brothers thing is a big thing right now because of how AT&T, Warner Media, went about doing it. Apparently, they didn't talk to all of the movie directors and actors and producers about what they were going to do. Legendary found out 30 minutes before the press release went out that they were going to release. And
but they are.
I mean,
they are releasing to theaters and direct home distribution on the same day.
Exactly, where Legendary didn't know that.
Yeah,
they weren't told. They were told it's going to be released theatrical for Dune, Kong versus Godzilla, and there's another one that they financed. But with Dune, they put 75% of the money into that movie, so they should have been consulted before they made it public that it was coming to HBO Max, and that's why Legendary got mad, and that's why the director ripped Warner Brothers a new one in that Variety article that came out a week or so ago.
Yeah.
And
that was written straight from the perspective of the
director. Yeah,
though.
yeah. It's a good article. If you haven't read it, I will link it to you.
Yeah, I did, and I get some of the frustration as a creative content creator. I would want to be consulted too, but the fact of the matter is, you've got a contract with the studio, and they own the distribution rights to that film, and they can do whatever they want to do without consulting anybody. The fact that is it going to impact revenue for the director? If they have a revenue sharing deal, maybe, but it's better than not having the movie released at all, which is what they were looking at, right? And you know, that's something that's relatively new to movies, Brian. As a cinema fan and as a behind the curtain fan, you know, before the movie Twins came out, you remember Twins with Schwarzenegger and DeVito?
Yes.
Yep.
Movies were actors, directors, everybody. They were paid, you know, a set fee. You know, it was a work for hire. But Schwarzenegger and DeVito, they negotiated their contracts so that they got paid a work for hire rate plus royalties on the box office returns. And because that movie was a smash success, they made millions of dollars, and they took less on the work for hire, you know, percentage, because they knew they were going to make more off royalties than they would just being paid a flat fee. Well, that movie set that new model, and now that is the model for films to be made. Producers, directors, actors, well, not producers, they fund it, but you know, the directors, the writers, the actors, everyone, you know, gets a flat fee to begin with, and then they're paid, you know, percentage of royalties off the box office returns. And so when I can see where you say, well, listen, we're going to release this in 2 different platforms, and that platform could potentially harm the theater box office take. They can be angry, but the thing is, AMC is going bankrupt. They may not even be around after the first of the year. Regal is still shut down in most places, and it's only small, you know, independent chains and theaters that are even, you know, open right now. And so, you know, this Dune could be released to a movie theater, but only be seen on 60 screens nationwide and be an absolute dismal failure. So why not, you know, take the money, because there is revenue from HBO Max. I mean, those are deals where, you know, there's money trading hands. So you're talking about, do we make 0 or do we make something?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I know in the article he said that releasing a scope type film like Dune to HBO Max totally takes away any chances of the planned trilogy, because they wanted to do more than the first book. And that's what he had signed up for. And then I know Christopher Nolan, before that, you know, the words that he said was, we all went to bed thinking we were working for the best film studio, and we woke up realizing we were working for the worst streaming service. Now, the argument is that Warner Media did this move not because of COVID, but because HBO Max was struggling in subscribers. I mean, look at Disney Plus. In a year, 86.3 million subscribers. And HBO Max, that's including people that already subscribe to HBO on cable. They combine the numbers. It was way less than that. So that's the argument that a lot of people are thinking, you know, they use COVID as like the face, but it's actually to get people to subscribe to HBO Max.
Well, there's truth to all of it. It's not one or the other. It's all of that combined.
Yeah. So moving on to another subject for 2020 is we've seen a few TV shows end, most notably the 15-year run of Supernatural.
How do we keep bringing that up?
Well, because everyone's talking about it. You know, so Supernatural.
Because we like to make you cry, Nicole.
I know.
Well, okay. So first of all, let me just say this about TV shows. I don't think TV shows in general should have more than 3 or 4 seasons. I want my TV show to have a finite ending. I want to know that, you know, after the fact. Like if I get exposed to it, if I invest myself into a TV show, I want to know, okay, 3-4 seasons, cool. I've only seen a couple of episodes of Supernatural. And because when it first came out, it was just not my thing. And now it is kind of my thing, but I'm like, okay, do I want to go back and invest the time to watch this series? Because if I'm going to watch it, I want to watch it from the beginning. And am I going to invest my time to watch this? So that was the first thing, and there are exceptions to that. I think MASH was on for 12 seasons or 11 seasons.
ER was on for like ever too.
Yeah. And well, CSI, not CSI, but Law and Order is like on 23 years, 24 years. Yeah. That's insanity, but that's a whole nother thing. And Gunsmoke was on for like 25 years. And again, that was a different thing. It wasn't really episodic. It was standalone stories. So you can tune into Gunsmoke in any episode and, be fully immersed. Same thing with the Andy Griffith Show and, all of those great classic shows. You don't have to have seen what came before to appreciate it. So in some ways, I'm glad that Supernatural ended because it went on way too long. But, I love how fans are so outraged about the way they ended it. Like they have some ownership in the property. I'm like, you know what? It's not your show. You're not the writer. You're not the creator. You're not the one to say what should or shouldn't be done with these characters. And
fans are going to be mad no matter how things end, because look at Game of Thrones when they ended. Look how many people were mad at
everybody is like that because we get invested in the characters just from a fan standpoint, which I understand. But my unpopular opinion is that it ended perfectly. It ended shut up.
Throw some popcorn.
Jesus. It ended perfectly. It ended perfectly, ended exactly the way it should have ended. And it ended exactly the way if you were a fan of the show and you did watch the entire series and you had it all read into the character, honestly, Dean had to be the one that died first. He was going to give it up for his brother because his brother was the one that wanted the normal life. That it's just the way it is. And if you're a true fan of the show, you're going to just suck it up and deal with the fact that that's how it ended. Now, I don't have a problem with the ending. I think it was a good ending. Had I wished it happened 17 minutes in? No. However, at least I know that everybody got to go to heaven and, there was at least a happy ending. Like after 15 years of chasing monsters and killing the baddies, I think you deserve to rest in the heaven that you deserve. But the fans, how do I say this without sounding like an asshole? Because to be completely honest, it makes me sound like an asshole. But for me, as a member and an ally of the LGBTQ family, I don't believe that everything has to be sex and gender related. So maybe I read deeper. Maybe that's just me. But I really believe that even if they had a bromance, even if they were best friends, that the whole Misha Collins and Jensen Ackles, bromance, Dean, the Destiel thing had no place. Misha Collins can say whatever he wants as far as whether it was an actual like attraction based on sex. But if you're being honest, like 100%, an angel is an angelic being that was never human. So it has neither male nor female gender rules. And so just because he parked himself in a male body doesn't necessarily mean that he couldn't love the soul of another man. And it doesn't mean that it had to be sex related. This is what pisses me off about everything in the whole year of 2020 is that everything revolves simply around sex. That's why everybody has a problem with just gender equality in general. They have problems with gender equality. They have problems with LGBTQ. They have problems with everything. Why does it have to be about sex? Why can't people just love and be attracted to another human being? So I personally don't understand that. Why couldn't he just love the soul that Dean had? Love the soul that he saved from purgatory. Love the soul of the person. Why does it have to be about sex? Why did it have to be that way? They all made it that way. I didn't make it that way. I can look at my best friend and say, I love you. Aside from the fact that technically my best friend is sitting right next to me and he just happens to be male and he just happens to be my partner. But at the end of the day, out of all of my female best friends or all of my female friends, I could say, I love you. And there would be no weirdness. It's not like, it's not that kind of love. I don't know. I'm angry. I'm still angry.
Okay. So I had this conversation about gender equality a couple of weeks ago with my buddy Lucas Leverett, and the problem with fandom right now is that there's this push for promoting gender equality, promoting the LGBTQ. I got that mixed up, but you know what I mean. Promoting those agendas over story, and the season finale of Mandalorian was the perfect example of how to do it right, because it wasn't until just about the end of that scene where the four women, Bo-Katan and Cara Dune and Fennec and the other Mandalorian, Sasha Banks' character, right at the end of that scene, I'm like, wait a minute. This strike force is all the badass chicks. Because they didn't like say, hey, look, we're the women, we can fight too. They weren't like, look at all our gender equality. Aren't we swell for doing the right thing at Lucasfilm? No, they didn't do that. They just did the right thing, and they told a good story. And afterwards, you're like, that was really awesome. And I think that's where fandom needs to come. We need to have a come to Jesus meeting, fandom. We don't need to promote agendas over story. We need to tell a good story. And if that piece of art has an agenda or speaks to someone in a deeper way, great. But let's tell a good story first.
Well, and I'd rather have the female characters have good story where they're valuable characters and they matter, as opposed to just anything that you just placed them there. Like, you just place them there to sell a product. And these women are, strong women that have been in the business for a long time, and they have put themselves out there as, strong individuals, just in all by itself. Like, I would rather watch all of these women. I love Cara Dune and I love Fennec and I love Bo-Katan, but at the same time, any of them could have been male and had as good a role in the story. They didn't have to be female. They just happened to be female.
Right.
They didn't take precedence over what they were telling the story of. Like, Cara Dune doesn't care that she's female. It's not something that's, I am a woman and blah, 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 blah. It's like, who cares? She's a kick-ass girl that's going to save the day. Same thing with Ming-Na Wen. It's
they just froze.
I get what she's saying, and yeah, we don't. When it comes to fandom and the female equality.
Oh my god!
Sorry, go ahead.
Stupid internet. Sorry. Are we okay? Are we?
Yes, you're good now.
Yeah, you're good. We'll just give the thing a little swat here and there to make sure that it was working fine.
No, I think that's the important thing. Like, have no issues if you're a woman, if you're gay, if you're straight, whatever, as long as it's a good story and the story's told well, and that, like John says, agenda fits the story, then there should be no problem.
And a lot of people misunderstand me about this. I think art should have an agenda, because art media, movies, TV, comics, novels. Art has the power to influence and to change lives. So good art does have an agenda, and it should, but you never sacrifice the art for the agenda.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think anybody who is a fan, I think anybody who is a fan of something, even if their overall opinions about things tend to be a little more, progressive, I don't think necessarily want just that. I want a good story. I want a good, round, full character that I can care about, as opposed to, just having her there for, the effect.
But can we not make a character gay just for the sake of making them gay? Just make it a natural thing. I'm all for my gay characters and having extremely flamboyant gentlemen walking around in drag, because I love drag queens, don't get me wrong, but I would love to see a bit more natural feel when it comes to the gay community, instead of just going, oh, we're just going to make this character gay.
Well, we can't normalize sexuality if the conversation isn't around their lives as humans. Like, that's my problem, is that everybody is the token whatever. As we can't normalize anything if we don't have real people living their lives.
So like, is this something that you want to see improved on next year in TV and film?
I do. I do. And like we watch 911 Austin.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Lone Star.
Thank you. Lone Star 911 Lone Star. And so one of the characters is transgender.
But is transgender in real life.
And is transgendered in real life. And then the new Saved by the Bell has a transgendered girl, and she's transgender in real life. And I like the way both have talked about it. Like
they wrote it into the character.
They wrote it as the character. This is how the character lives, and these are the struggles that they really have to deal with. And so when he talks about not wanting to say certain things or not wanting to do certain things because of the flack that he'll get from that he legitimately is talking about real life issues. And it's not preachy. It's yes, to educate, but these are real life things. If you invest in the character, you understand why he has the trouble doing the things he has, because you understand that about his character. The same thing with the girl in Saved by the Bell. Like, there was one comment made about her being transgendered, and it's not a very good show. I'm just letting you know. It's not
was the original good though?
I loved it. But it was kids TV. It was not meant to be. It wasn't meant to be good television. It was just meant to be fun. But this one is neither. But I can appreciate.
They did touch on real stories, like real life. They try to do a spin on real life by making it funny, but at the same time,
I appreciate that in certain ways. Like, I don't think that they did a bad job. I just feel like it needs to be something that is normalized. It needs to be something that is a conversation instead of some preachy thing. Like, we should just, like, why does it matter? Like, I think about Schitt's Creek probably because they did it so well. Like, there was an understanding that he wasn't traditionally. He wasn't a traditional character. There was
there's a line that you took to heart.
Well, and he wasn't a traditional character, and you knew as the audience, like, we knew. I don't know how I knew, but I knew. And so when I started watching, and I was like, oh my God, he slept with a girl. So does that mean So is he both? And so I was like, okay. And this is relative to my general life and my struggle a little bit. So I was like, okay. So he had there was a whole like extended metaphor about liking the wine, but not liking the label, and saying that this is what it is. And this is what I like. And I'm not going to label it. So you think what you want to think. And I think that there was a moment for me. And I was like, that was the way to do it. It was a way to say that I don't have to label myself to fit into your box. But I can explain to you that this is what is important to me. And then to fall in love with another male character, which, by the way, is not gay in real life. So, like there's that whole, like, just stop labeling people. Why do they have to be there just for the, just to say
quota?
And that's why I agree with Gina Carano too. I don't believe that she should have to promote anything as far as yay feminism, go LGBTQ, like why does she have to say that just because she's a woman in television? Maybe it's what she believes in, but why should that be splattered all over her page as some way for her to be somebody's spokesperson? Why does she have to be? There are a lot of other people that are spokespeople. Let them.
Can we talk about what Ming Na Wen did for ageism?
Oh my God!
This in Mandalorian season 2, chick is 57 years old and she is bad to the bone.
Yeah,
she looks like the same as she did in the Joy Luck Club.
She does not age, which I think is the beauty of an ethnicity like anybody who tends to be Asian. They age really well, but they take good care of themselves too.
John, have you had a chance to meet her?
Never have met her.
Oh my God,
she's amazing.
We met her 2 years ago at MegaCon. Was it 2 years or was it last year? I don't remember.
It's 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And we did a photo op with her. She didn't want us to leave the photo op. Like, in the photo op, they're like, snap next. Like she was
talking to the kids. She was talking to the kids. She was talking to me. She was like, oh, and she was still talking to us as they were shifting us out, and
that's cool.
It was the beauty of the conversation.
No ego.
Michael Rooker was the same way.
Yeah, Michael Rooker is the same way.
And so there was just that understanding of these are my fans and these are my people, and I'm the reason they're here, so I better make it a good reason. Like they're spending their money to be here.
Didn't you say Ian Somerhalder from Vampire Diaries?
Oh my God, like Ian Somerhalder was the same way.
Like her picture was messed up, and he actually said that he wanted another picture.
No, he said, "Get back here! You're taking another picture." I was like, "Okay, all right." Now I feel weird. I'm like, "Okay, I'll take another picture with you. Can I have both of them? I don't care." But yeah, it was important. But we had the same thing happen with Dean Cain, and I was like, "This guy was amazing," and we've never met a. I don't know. Did we? Oh, yeah. Well, we did have one, but it's clear to me why she was having issues.
I'll tell you after we go off air.
So it was Tyler Hoechlin was hilarious and wonderful.
You need to tell that story. I don't think John knows that story.
So Tyler Hoechlin worked on Teen Wolf, and one of my friends from high school is one of the special effects makeup guys. Did Tyler and everybody's makeup on Teen Wolf. And I said, so I messaged my friend. He lives in LA, and I was here, at a con, and I said, I'm going to go in Tyler's line and I'm going to name drop you. And he says, dude, do it, name drop him or name drop me. And I said, hey, I just wanted to say hi. We have a mutual friend. And he's like, oh, yeah, we do. And I was like, yeah, my friend from high school that did the makeup on Teen Wolf. He's like, you know Eric? Eric went to your high school? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I was like, he's my Facebook friend too. He's like, call him now. So I called him and literally
lost your phone.
Lost my phone for like 20 minutes. He just sat there and talked on my phone to Eric and said, I can't believe this. Like, you come around here and say hi. Like,
yeah,
you know,
they
he gave me a hug. He was
something.
like, I'm so glad that you came to my line and you reconnected us, because it's been a couple of years since they'd seen each other. And I was like, it was super cool. And I understand that it was all because of a mutual friend, but he didn't treat me badly. He was like, oh my gosh, you know him? Okay, that's awesome. Can you call him? Let's call him. It'll be great. And I'm like, cool. And then he gave me a hug and he's like, thank you so much. He says, I'm so glad that I got to reconnect with a friend of mine. I was like,
that right there, and Bob, that moment though told me why he was cast as Superman.
Well, I met him at a Indie PopCon, and while they were doing the show, and he was one of my judges for the cosplay contest that I produced. So very cool guy.
I mean, we've been lucky. There's a handful of people that have not been.
Yeah. One I tell you on air that I don't care. I know a lot of people say, oh, he's nice. Is Lou Ferrigno. I had a bad experience with him at San Diego Comic-Con.
He's hit and miss. He's real hit and miss.
Well, my story with him is San Diego Comic-Con has, when you get a ticket, you get the official like Comic-Con book. And the rule, I don't know if it's the same, but the rule at the time was if you took that book to anybody, even if they were charging, they have to sign it for free. Because that was the official San Diego Comic-Con like program guide. He wouldn't do it. He's like, he pointed to his sign. He's like, it's $20. And I was trying to explain it to him, and like, yeah. So I went to the Comic-Con booth, and the like boss of Comic-Con was there at the time, and he walked me over there. And as I was walking with him, he's talking to Lou, and he actually chewed him out. And I think I ended up passing on the autograph.
Again, think about the relevance of people. Like, you're a hanger on. You're doing the con circuit to make money. That's all you're doing. You're not doing it for the fans. You're doing it to make money.
Well,
because you're not relevant anymore.
I had the privilege, quote unquote, of meeting and interviewing Zach Galligan for a podcast that I was doing for comicspriceguide.com. Do you guys know who Zach Galligan is?
Gremlins, right?
Billy Peltzer in Gremlins. He was I'm just going to say this publicly, and I've said it before. He was the biggest douchebag I've ever met in my entire life. And
oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and we ended up not publishing that interview on the blog, on the podcast, because he was just not a decent human being at all. For those of you, this is him right there, Zach Galligan. Yep. What has he done lately?
Nothing.
He was like in one of the Hatchet movies.
Yeah, they killed him, didn't they?
Yeah, he got killed.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's where I'm at as far as like, I think that this is going to start making people realize it's like, well, if they're flocking to your page and they're looking at stuff of you for free, then if you make it a good experience, they will definitely come and be there for you.
And it's funny because we're talking about this. This comes full circle with how John was talking about cons. So I think, John, you're saying that in 21 and 22 and 23 and beyond, you're going to see more people flocking to the retail side of things and the artists more than the celebs.
Well, it's going to take a long time for celebrities to want to come back to conventions. yes, they make a lot of money, but those conventions that they're making a lot of money are slowly shrinking or disappearing, and they cannot justify the risk to their career to be among a sea of fans until we're past whatever this COVID is, whatever you want to call it. If it is a pandemic, if it's a hoax, who cares? Once we're past it, then we can talk about whether celebrities want to come back or not. But for the next 2 to 3 years, they ain't gonna go to cons.
Yeah. Sure.
So do you foresee that what we're doing here with talking to them online more is going to become more of a thing for conventions to do more of these online appearances with them?
Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that the whole COVID-19 pandemic has caused everyone to reevaluate their priorities a little bit. And I really believe that people care less about celebrity now than they ever have. And they really care more about the individual connections. And so we'll see some cons come back that have no celebrity guests at all. And people won't care because they're going to see their friends. They're going to see the costumes. They're going to find stuff at the vendors' booths that they've never seen before and will never see again. And same thing with the online shows. I mean, this morning we had over 100 viewers at 8 a.m. this morning for Back of the Cereal Box.
Oh, wow.
And we don't have a single celebrity on the show. But
what are you talking about? I thought you were a celebrity.
I am?
I mean, look at you.
Nobody told him. He didn't get the memo.
I do a lot. I'm out there. People know who I am, but I'm not a celebrity. I wish I were. I'd love to have that cheddar, but no.
Yeah.
But I think people don't care as much anymore. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
You know what?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I would love to see more. Like, my favorite convention that we have here in Winnipeg is KeyCon. I love the closeness. I love the family feel. Like, it feels like going to a family gathering every year. Yeah. And it's not in a huge convention center. It's at the Radisson Hotel. We take up the 15th floor of the Radisson Hotel, and we get people to host hospitality suites.
No, they did it for a while.
And this convention has been going on for the last 36 years, 37. And nobody knows that it exists. It was just created by a bunch of, people who live in their basements and barely see the light of day.
That's how San Diego started back in the 70s.
But if you think about that, like most of us that are like con goers, like really are into it, we go for the people that are people we see every year. Like those are the people we go to see. So it's just icing on the cake. It's just icing on the cake to have a celebrity that you just happen to want to meet.
Right. And those cons are the cons that will survive. Those cons are the cons that will survive because they have a solid, loyal fan following, a community, and it is like a family reunion every year.
And, you miss that group of people that you nerd out with, that you can sit and shoot the shit with at their booth or whatever. And, you do miss them. Like you miss having that opportunity to check in and say, hey, how are things going?
I brought you kind of into that world. You met a lot of artists that you fell in love with, like their drawings.
Well, they're just cool people. Yeah. Like, and for me, it's always been more of, are they cool people? Like your art is secondary to whether you treat me like a human when I walk up to your booth. Like, do you know my name? If you know my name when I walk up to your booth and I'm sharing your stuff on Facebook and I'm doing all this stuff and we chat for a minute or whatever, then I'm always going to do that for you. Like I'm always, you have a fan. So I'm always, if I can't monetarily support you, I'm going to support you in other ways.
Well, so that's an interesting point. So when I was doing a show for comicspriceguide.com, we did a show called Tales from the Geek, 117 consecutive episodes, and we averaged about 80,000 viewers a week. Now, the average comic book series, just to put this in perspective, the average comic book series sells between 15 and 30,000 copies, depending on if it's from a major publisher or an indie. A big hit comic will sell, 80 to 100,000 copies. So we had 80,000 viewers each week. And we go to a Wizard World, and we're interviewing artists. And there was one particular very famous Marvel artist who hasn't done a whole lot lately, whose wife would not let us even come close to him to even get a hey, how you doing? I almost said his name. What are you working on next? What's your next big project? What should our fans know about from you? We couldn't even get close to him to promote him to our 80,000 fans, and he's not sold 5,000 copies of anything in over a decade.
I think I know who you're talking about.
It's not Neil Adams. Neil Adams was actually awesome. But this was at one time the golden boy of Marvel Comics. That might have been a clue.
I'll tell him after the show.
Yeah.
I know. I always kind of like feel bad, like as a creator myself and as a person who writes and doesn't mind sharing my stuff, I guess. I do like the critique. Like I do like it when people are like, well, I think this about it or whatever. But I also want people to like look into it the way they felt about it. And then I want to listen to what they might have thought about it too. That takeaway of their own. And I met Chris Claremont, and I was like, well, I used your book to teach comics in the classroom, da 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 da. And we talked about, the allegory and blah blah blah. And everything I said, though, I always kind of felt like there was an edge to what he was trying to say. And I was like, he was a cool guy. And I didn't live during that time. Like, I didn't live during any of the civil rights stuff. Real? Yes, it is. It's real. Any of the civil rights stuff. Like, I was a kid, even in the 80s when all that stuff was happening too. So I didn't get it. I get it better now. But, like, there was a whole like understanding he wanted me to get from the 1980s. And I'm like, I was 4 when your book came out, dude. Like I'm just using it now as a window for my kids to understand racism and understanding text. Like that's seriously all we wanted to do. I just wanted to read X-Men because I thought it would be fun. Like, but it was good to get his side of things. I think that was interesting, but I didn't really get to talk to him very much. There was a lot of him talking to me. And I was like, well, I kind of understand that. But at the same time, I was like, well, I would have really liked to.
You also, I think it was last year, or maybe the year before, you met the creator of New Mutants, who used to be
Bob McLeod?
Yeah, I think so.
Bob McLeod?
Yeah. I always mispronounce it McLeod. Yeah.
I just always have fun. Like I always have fun. And I geek out for the dumb stuff. Like, of course, I love my certain celebrities, but if you're a jerk, you're a jerk forever. Like, But no matter what Bryan says.
Oh yeah.
How many attachments you
No
have?
matter,
Oh
no
yeah,
matter
I've had my moments with other celebrities, and I'm just like, it definitely gives you a bad taste in your mouth. And I know, John, you were touching on that on your show earlier this morning. But yeah, it definitely gives you a bad taste in your mouth, and you don't want to support them for the rest of their career because of that interaction.
When everybody always tells me, like Bryan tells me, and everybody always tells me Bret Hart is a cool guy, and I'm just like, well, he wasn't cool when I met him. And as much as now I feel less like that, just based on like interviews that I've heard him give now that he's older. But when I was in 1995, I'm like, okay, well, if you're gonna be a douchebag, then I'm good. Like, we're straight. Like, I'm. There's your book. It's signed. It'll sit in a tub for the rest of my life until somebody wants to buy it, I guess.
Now that you bring up Bret Hart, we need to talk about how wrestling has gone through 2020.
Nice segue.
Nice segue.
Yeah, segue. I'm going to start with.
I don't know. There's no explanation required.
The ups and downs. Wrestling with we had crowds at the beginning of the year, and then starting with, I think, March on forward, we had lost the crowds. And you could see it in the performances of the wrestlers. Because, John, the wrestlers feed off of the crowd energy. Well, anybody, live concerts, whatever, you feed off of a live crowd. And so at the beginning of the year, we had the Royal Rumble in Phoenix in front of 42,000 people. We saw the return of someone who returned from an injury.
I definitely have a type of people that I like, apparently.
From his injury, it was wrestling. You never say never, but
nobody expected him to come back.
I truly believe that Edge would not come back. And for
I never thought he would come back. I never thought he would either.
And he was doing good. He was in TV. He was on Haven and then Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed up in a few other TV stuff and movies. But he come back not only at the Royal Rumble, in the Royal Rumble. And
in better shape than he had ever been in his entire career.
Yeah, exactly. Can you take me back to that moment when did you watch the Royal Rumble in January then?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did watch the recap of the highlights. And when I saw Edge, come back and he could go, I was like thrilled, because there's something to be said in 2020 about how age ain't nothing but a number. We talked about it with Ming, Edge, even there's some guys, Sting. Sting had been put on the shelf by WWE, and he goes back to AEW, and the dude can still go. And there's something to be said about that, and that's been really revealed in 2020, I think. We have become, there's always been kind of this nostalgia thing in fandom, but in 2020, nostalgia, especially for the 80s and the 90s, has just skyrocketed. And when we see our heroes like Edge coming back looking great, it's inspiring. It tells us, never say never. Nothing is forever. And if you want to, you can accomplish anything you want to do at any stage of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to also kind of piggy on that, because we saw the end of the Undertaker's run, and everything that happened in that 30-year career come to a place where you saw him break character and you saw him tell about those inner workings of his life.
How does a wrestler
not break character for 30 years?
Yeah, break character. how did Mark Calloway do it? Like,
commitment. That's what it was. It was commitment to his business. It was commitment to.
John has a thought I could see.
Well, it's hard. It is really hard. You know, for 20 years, I was mostly known for playing a character, the suited swing hipster, Big Daddy Cool, magician, singer, actor, you know, time traveler. And it was exhausting to maintain that character. You know, to talk with the Chicago accent, to have the swagger, to do the things all the time as that character, and to constantly be on was exhausting. And for The Undertaker, I think we saw moments in his career where it took a toll on him. And maybe not so much mentally, but physically. I mean, there were a couple of years where he took an entire year off just to recover from the last WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think after a few years of being gone, he'll make a return and he'll look great. He'll be in great shape again, you know, and the crowd will go crazy.
And it's the same way for some of the other guys, you know, like when you see them again, you're like, oh, it's good to see them, you know, like I didn't have the same kind of appreciation for The Undertaker that I do now, having seen 5 parts of his documentary series, and
which is fantastic.
Holy crap, this dude is freaking amazing.
Like, documentaries are, I love documentaries, you know, especially about film and stuff, and, you know, National Geographic and all that. But this is probably the best documentary that I've seen for at least sports.
From a standpoint of telling somebody's story and how important it was to him. Like, you see things about him that, you know, how important it was for him to be good and how important it was for him to go out the way he did. And it wasn't like he was hanging on to hang on.
And it wasn't fluff. He was
like
sometimes documentaries fluff things.
I want to do a good job. Like, I want to go out giving the crowd what they deserve, you know?
And you guys got to understand, I've been watching The Undertaker since he was Mean Mark in the Twin Towers with Danny Spivey back in the old regional days. So, you know, 30 years in WWE, I mean, maybe 10 or 12 years prior to that, in WCW and NWA. And I'll tell you, I talk about this a lot, Bryan, and you and I have talked about it. What makes The Undertaker's retirement so kind of bittersweet is I think he is the last of those wrestlers who transcended wrestling and became a pop culture icon. He didn't have the film or TV career of, you know, Stone Cold or John Cena or Hulk Hogan or The Rock, but everybody knows who The Undertaker is. And I think he's, as far as I can see of the current crop of wrestlers, he's the last of that kind.
Yeah.
And so as fans, we're like, we have to acknowledge that, you know, those guys, the Ric Flairs, the Hulk Hogans, the Macho Man Savages, we just don't have them coming forward. I mean, I think the closest they have to it right now is in the women's division with Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
And you talk about energy. When I watched last week's match with Charlotte Flair and Ahsoka on the tag team women, Charlotte Flair doesn't pull energy from the crowd. She creates the energy for the crowd. There is something electric about her in the ring that I haven't really seen since Hogan or The Rock.
And she doesn't have to say a lot to do it either. Like, she doesn't take the mic very often and rile people up just to rile them up. Yeah. Like, everything she does pretty much comes from what she's inside the ring. And I don't know anybody else. I mean, I know that there's people who are good and we enjoy them, but I don't
get any of that energy from Drew McIntyre or Roman Reigns or Bobby Lashley or who any of the other champions.
Well, I'm surprised that people get anything from Bobby Lashley, but
I mean, it feels like their energy and their persona ends at the edge of the TV screen.
Yeah.
With Charlotte Flair, I feel like it's coming out to me. That's just, and maybe I'm alone on that. I don't know.
I kind of feel the same way about Bianca Belair and some of the other women who are, taking the reins and trying to be something. I love Asuka. I love her. I don't understand anything she says, but I love her because there's a joy. Like you see that joy in her face. She has fun when she's out there. And that's important too. Like I was not always a Randy Orton fan, but in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I've kind of watched him, and you watch him like, yeah, he's not a real, like, his personality doesn't jump off the screen. But when you watch him wrestle, you can tell that he can see whatever's happening 3 or 4, moves or 3 or 4 minutes ahead. And so he's anticipating all of the things that could potentially happen. Now, I understand he had to take his licks too, but there's that understanding of I'm here to protect another person and put on a good show.
Can I ask you guys a question? I don't get the love for Daniel Bryan. I don't think that dude can work in the ring at all. He seems so clumsy and just not, I don't know.
Good gimmick? I don't know. He doesn't strike me as interesting.
I don't know. Like, have you followed?
He's okay.
He appreciates the business. You can see that, but like, I kind of understand what John's saying.
Yeah, I understand it too.
How do you feel about?
He doesn't jump off the screen for me though.
How do you feel about somebody like CM Punk?
CM Punk was brilliant. CM Punk, for me, him and the John Cena rivalry was, for me, the modern Hogan versus Savage dichotomy. Yeah. And I think CM Punk, he retired too soon. Everybody wants him back, but I thought he was brilliant in the ring. He was brilliant on the mic, and he had that same energy that Savage brought to the ring.
I've never talked to you about this, but how do you feel about his famous pipe bomb when it was, half kind of scripted and half real about how he felt on the wrestling industry as a whole?
That was a brilliant moment in not just wrestling history, but television history. And I couldn't believe that they allowed it to air because it was real. You could tell it was real, and I could tell that there were things that no way would Vince McMahon approve of him saying. And I couldn't believe they didn't cut his mic and cut to something else. But I thought it was maybe one of the best things to happen to wrestling in a long time. And yes, I want a CM Punk ice cream bar too.
I have to appreciate that pipe bomb because we wouldn't have a lot of the. I mean, I know you don't see the thing about Daniel Bryan, but like you wouldn't see people like Daniel Bryan or Ricochet or AJ Styles in WWE because we know Vince, likes
likes the big guys, yeah,
right. And even though Triple H is a big guy, he likes the smaller guys, and you could. If you look at the way, especially with NXT, and you can see it, that you can see this is Vince's wrestling and this is Triple H's wrestling. I look forward to the day that Triple H and Stephanie take over, because we're going to see the WWE change in a way that fans have been wanting for years. And I think you may agree on this, John. I don't know if I know you said that you kind of see NXT, but you haven't really looked at it.
Yeah, I haven't invested into it.
I think screw SmackDown, screw Raw, even though they have great talent, watch NXT. They put on a show. You can see all the workings, because NXT is Dusty Rhodes' baby. Dusty Rhodes created NXT, but Triple H was there to follow the footsteps of Dusty until he had passed. You can see it.
Well, there was a period of time when TNA Impact Wrestling, I felt, was producing the best product out there. When you had the Motor City Machine Guns versus Beer Money, and you had Victoria and Mickie James feuding.
Was Styles still there then?
Yeah. AJ Styles was still there. And, you had Austin Aries and Bobby Roode, and they had the absolute best talent. And, they didn't get dragged down into the soap opera stuff as much. They just focused on what was happening in the ring. And it was really, really good stuff. I remember that year, Mickie James and Victoria had a cage match. And it was the best match I had seen all year. From a women's wrestling match was unbelievable. That was the year that Mickie James came flying off the top of the cage with that double knee to Victoria's chest. Mm-hmm. And it was unbelievable. And Motor City Machine Guns and what's his name? Sabin getting the heavyweight championship from Bully Ray. That was all magic happening. And if NXT is anything like that, then I would be really into that.
Yeah, see, that was the whole thing with Drew McIntyre when he got re-signed. William Regal and Triple H had reached out to him. He said, I didn't want to go to the main roster. I want to start back in NXT. Because NXT felt like after he was considered the chosen one and got fired, and he went to Impact and he went back to the UK and he did all the independents and got a name for himself. He wanted to come back to NXT because it felt closest to what he was already doing. And so there's a lot of people that when they get signed, they want to go to NXT. Like the Undisputed Era, which is all Ring of Honor guys, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and Roderick Strong.
These guys can all wrestle though.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing. Like their in-ring ability can trump a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah. If you want to see that whole in-ring story, I don't know if it's on YouTube. If not, just subscribe to the WWE Network. You get a free month.
Take the free one.
Well, yeah, maybe. There's a match between
NXT
between Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly from last month, or was it the beginning of this? Last month. Watch that match.
And I am not a huge Undisputed Era fan. Like I whatever. But and I'm not a huge NXT fan. I just have too many other things that are in the, in my wheelhouse and things that I'm dealing with. But that match, I put everything down and go get dressed and watch that match. And I was like,
the story was like, think of Savage and Steamboat.
Okay.
Okay. Cold. Yeah. And they're oh my God, that match, even without the fans, I mean, they have the Thunderdome, which you sign up for and you are there, but you're on a screen.
Right.
And they do have some of like the other wrestlers and like the ones that are not on TV, the ones that are still training in the crowd behind plexiglass. So you still do get the crowd, cheering and pounding and all that. So that helps the in-ring work. But this match, they're both safe workers, but, in wrestling, sometimes stuff happens. Finn Balor did end up with a broken jaw at the end of the match. It was an accident, and Kyle O'Reilly, I think, got a broken rib, but they weren't mad at each other because they went on record, kind of out of character to say, that it was a great match, and they were just so into it. But definitely watch that match. You'll appreciate it.
All right. I can dig that.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Finn Balor?
Yes. Yeah. I like the makeup Finn Balor.
Yeah, which is known as the Demon.
Yeah.
He is an Irish wrestler, Willow, who started his course in Ireland and then got really famous in New Japan Pro Wrestling before WWE signed him. So he has all styles. In Japan, it's called strong style, where they work harder. If you kind of want to explain that more, John, if you understand the strong style a little bit, like the moves are
not as much.
Would you say the moves are more stiff a little bit to make it look more impactful? I think that's what strong style means.
I've not gotten into that whole differentiation in styles in New Japan.
But even British strong style, like it's more like if you look at a lot of the British wrestlers, like Pete Dunne, like if you look at their slaps and their clotheslines, they're more stiff to make it look more real, I guess.
Maybe you would compare that style to Finlay or Iron Mike Sharp.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that match was really good. I know she says she's not a fan really of Undisputed Era, but I love Adam Cole. What he does in the ring. He may not be as big as Shawn Michaels, like size-wise, but he reminds me of a lot of Shawn Michaels. And he's a great talker. He's a good in-ring performer. So he's all around. I mean, the only thing he has against him is his size, but that doesn't matter because once you see him in the ring, size doesn't matter.
Well, I think Rey Mysterio Jr. proved that to everybody over the years.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. So, John, looking at 2021 going forward, do you think you see yourself hopping back into the wrestling scene to kind of, at least following NXT just to see? I mean, we're starting fresh, the Royal Rumble's coming up in January, so you know how everything resets in January.
Yeah, it's always in my periphery. I tune in when I can. I would love to, if there are some superstars that really capture my imagination, I'm going to tune in. I've been wanting. There are a couple of guys that I've been wanting to really, take off and to get over the last years, and I'll always tune in to see what they're doing. Dolph Ziggler is one of those guys. John Morrison is one of those guys that I really want to see them succeed, and I've never quite figured out why they haven't hit the A-list of superstars. Kofi Kingston is like that for me as a singles wrestler. I'm like, what is missing with Kofi that he can't get over without a tag team partner? So when characters like that really get elevated, I get interested again. And I'm just looking for that next level superstar who transcends it. And once I have a feeling that there's someone who's transcending pop culture, I'll be really invested. But until then, I'm just I'm following, I'm watching, I'm paying attention to the people that I like, but I'm not devoted to the product necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Another thing that we've kind of gotten into since you're a fan of wrestling from when I've been a fan since I was born, basically. So, the 80s all the way to now. You remember Lillian Garcia? She was the ring announcer during the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
She has a podcast called Chasing Glory. And she not only brings on wrestlers, but she brings on celebrities, sports athletes, just like people of high stature, I guess is the word. But on the WWE Network, she has all the WWE Superstar episodes come on. And it's a podcast that's very real. And I'm once again surprised that WWE lets them talk about the things that they talk about. Like, there's an episode where Rhea Ripley, are you familiar with Rhea Ripley? She is an Australian female wrestler who is in NXT right now. She's been in the business for a while. She was the first UK women's champion for WWE. She talked about cutting growing up. And there's another NXT female wrestler, Shotzi Blackheart, who talked about.
I know her.
Yeah, she on the recent episode of Chasing Glory, which came out a few weeks ago, talked about how she was sexually abused by a family member growing up. So this show is very real. And there's an episode, the newest episode is with Elias, which is very good. I think you would like that documentary, especially if you want to know more about a specific wrestler. And there is an episode with Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic.
All right, I'll check that out.
Yeah. So Willow, is there anything that you want
to? Well, I know this year hasn't been big on fan reactions when it comes to the WWE or any wrestling show for that matter. But do you think that we're going to come back to that in 2021, or like even more so as an online presence for our fans, for the fans?
I have some insight into this because my day job is I run an insurance agency that caters to the music industry in Nashville. 75% of the music industry is my clients. And I'm talking superstar clients, people that would blow your mind. And, talking with their tour managers, they are anticipating that, with the vaccine being distributed right now, that tours are going to go back out on the road in summer of next year, around July 4th weekend. And so with big arena tours going back out, we'll start to see the crowds come back to wrestling events as well. And by January 2022, everyone will be back. It'll be back to normal. But I don't think you can discount the fan base that has come up watching virtually. And I think that will become a new part of the fan experience.
Yeah. One thing that I was thinking was with the way people are reacting, like, especially like with movie theaters and even going to the grocery store, people just want to stay home and order everything and have it delivered and stuff like that. Do you think that fear will continue even when people are told it's safe and all that to go? Like, will you see like people still afraid to go to theaters, afraid to go to concerts? Oh, sure. How do you see that affecting the future of that part of the world?
Well, we're not going to be back at 100,000 capacity at the Pontiac Silverdome, right away. And it might be half or 3/4 filled to begin with. But, for as many people who say they're still frightened, they're still scared, they're still wary, you know what? If you're scared, stay home. Protect yourself. Because obviously there's a reason to be. But for other people who have been vaccinated, who are ready to go on about their normal lives, we're going to see live entertainment come roaring back. I mean, it's gonna make your head spin how fast people are going to come back to the theaters and to the venues and to the arenas. Because the one thing that cannot be denied is during this past year, although we've made all these strides, we've been able to keep community, there's still nothing that compares to the live experience. And it's been my experience throughout my years in the entertainment industry that the more digital we become, the more hungry we become for the analog experience, for the tactile experience. And when in summer of 2021, when everyone is starting to feel good, it's going to all come roaring back really quick. It won't be back to normal capacities until 2022, but you'll see it come back.
So, like, let's, for example, Super Bowl 2022 of the year 2022. Do you see that like a full stadium then?
I would say 3/4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I want to see that stuff, and I think the players want to see that again too, in all the sports and stuff. I know a lot of people are like, big sports people make millions of dollars and don't really care, but there are a lot of those players that do miss the fans and really do love the fans.
And listen, everyone's lost a lot of revenue. Players, actors, studios, venues have lost revenue this year. And one of the things that you are going to see is, in an effort to get people back next summer,
tickets
go way down. Yeah. You're going to be able to enjoy things that you could never have afforded before. And it'll be that way for a year to a year and a half.
Gee, would be nice to see my football team play again, and my hockey team.
Yeah. And speaking of football, in 2022, next year they're going to announce the teams. But The Rock and his ex-wife Dana Garcia, who just bought the XFL, they're going to start the league back up in 2022, which 2020 totally ruined that league. I enjoyed that league. I thought the rules of the game was fun. I thought the teams were fun. Sure, they weren't as great as NFL games, but everybody was enjoying them. And I actually had tickets to the Tampa Bay Vipers against the St. Louis Blackhawks. And up until the day before, I was going until the day before the game was canceled. And I was like, that sucked, because I was happy. I wanted to see that, like, the Vipers were on a roll. They were gonna, probably end up getting another win at home. And yeah, so when Vince, pretty much gave up on it and it was up for sale, I was glad The Rock had bought the XFL, because he saw what a lot of the fans saw, that these players, and he had a whole message about giving people a chance. And he talked about, if it wasn't for certain people giving him a chance, he would have never been in the position that he's in now. And he says that's what the XFL does. The XFL is somewhere in between college and the NFL. And it's the gateway for, because I don't know what this, are you a big sports person, John?
No, not really.
I mean, I don't know what the statistics are of how many people in college actually make it to the NFL, but having the XFL is a good point or a stepping stone to get the NFL to look at you. And so next year they're going to
hear a lot more of the college football players end up in Canada, and they play for the CFL.
Yeah, that's another option. So I look forward to hearing what teams are still in the XFL, and if there's any more cities added. So, John, I know you're in Nashville, and I probably should have started the show with this. I'm glad that you're safe because I heard what happened yesterday, which is crazy. So how are things?
Theories, a lot of rumors flying around about that. Basically, what happened is about 1:30 a.m. Christmas morning, an RV loaded full of explosives drives up 2nd Avenue, adjacent to just on the other side of the AT&T building.
Yeah, wasn't Lyft headquarters there too? Like right around there, the Lyft headquarters, I think.
Yeah, and you've got you had Lyft is there, and CMT, a division of MTV, is right there, and what is the why can't I think of the ticketing website that's there? Event something. Anyway, they're all right there. And so 1:30, this RV pulls up and starts broadcasting a message saying, if you can hear this message, evacuate immediately. And at about 6:30 in the morning, it exploded and took out several buildings downtown Nashville, did extensive damage to AT&T, to their network. And so regionally, the AT&T network has been down in all of Tennessee, into Georgia, Alabama, and as far north as Ohio. People have not been able to access internet, have phone service and whatnot. And but I live 26 miles from where that happened, so nowhere near it. But I do ghost tours 2-3 nights a week on that street on 2nd Avenue, and to see some of the venues that we go into, they're historic buildings that are buckling in now. The windows are gone. One building that opens up to the riverfront, the whole backside got blown off. It's bizarre, and nobody knows who did it, why, or what. There's all kinds of theories and rumors, but nobody knows for sure.
Yeah. So as we wind down this episode, I want to take this moment, and I'll give it to you, Willow, at first here. As you look back and then look forward to the next year, is there something that you want to say to our audience, to anybody that's listening or watching, just from the heart, just any words of wisdom or anything like that?
You know what? In all honesty, I don't want this closeness that we have created with each other. I'm a huge community person, and being able to meet people online as quickly as we did during the pandemic, and being able to create our podcasts, it has been a freeing. This has helped me become a little bit more creative and a little bit more more accountable when it comes to what I've wanted to do in the last year. I've been wanting to create a podcast, and now I have the freedom to do so. I don't really want this to end per se. Like, I want the pandemic to end, but at the same time, I don't want to become so busy where I'm not able to be creative anymore. I want my creativity to flourish still after the world reopens.
All right, John, and same to you. As we look back at 2020 and we look forward to 2021, is there anything that you want to say to our listeners, to your listeners?
Yeah. Balance. Prioritize what's important and find balance. For 30 years, I had a career in the entertainment industry, performing and giving my all for complete strangers. World champion magician. I performed in Las Vegas, had my own show off Broadway, sung at Carnegie Hall. I've had a career that most performers would dream of. But I got COVID and I'm in the hospital recovering from COVID. I'm by myself because family couldn't come visit. And I realized that thinking back on it, I've missed so much time with family and with friends and, doing things that I really love to do, traveling and eating good food. And because I always had a show, I always had a gig, I always had a commitment to complete strangers. And I made this decision that that's not what I want to do anymore. And I lost all desire to be in front of an audience, a live audience. And, I really decided that, it's about, finding what's important and prioritizing that. And, so now my goals for 2021, yes, I'm still going to be creative. I'm still publishing books and got a webcomic series and my podcasts, but I have no desire to step on stage ever again. And, a lot of people have found that very strange, but I'm like, I'm going to devote the rest of my life to traveling to spend time with friends and family, eating good food, and loving the people around me. And so that's what I would encourage everyone watching to aspire to, is find balance and live a life with no regrets.
Amen, brother. Amen. And for myself, Nicole had to step out to take the son to the store. He got a snake tank for Christmas, and that's what he wants, is a snake. So they're going to the pet store to check some things out. I want to thank everyone that watched starting from January, which we just did this for fun as a Royal Rumble review. We talked about the return of Edge and decided to continue. We've had many guests from the film, television, comic world, and we've had wrestling promoters on. We've had wrestlers, and learning their journey was interesting to me, and I hope to you that had watched. I find it very fascinating to share their journeys with everyone, because there's always that one person that's in, wanting to follow their footsteps. And if there's someone that's creative that can come on here and share their story and their insights on whatever topic we're talking about, whether it's a film, a TV series, wrestling, and it inspires someone to get into that field, to do podcasting, to become a singer, a writer, whatever, that is a blessing to me. And so I want to continue doing this and become better in the following year. And I just want to say I love everyone, and have a blessed day. So as we end this, I do want to show an ad, because this person was chasing his glory all year, and they had a lot of people behind him, and he didn't think it could happen, and he crossed a mark and continues crossing the marks. And I just want to say Christian Basil is someone I look up to, and when I grow up, that's who I want to be. So here's a little ad that I have to run.
This is the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Also catch us on the HWWS Web TV YouTube channel. Subscribe today and become part of the legend.
If you are a Doctor Who fan, that is...
You need to go, you need to be part of that show. Yeah.
Yeah. Become part of the legend, as it says. That is the Doctor Who spot to check out. So, John, thank you very much for joining us on this.
Thank you.
episode of 2020. So where can people find you?
It's really super easy. John Pica at johnpica.com. I've got a lot of different projects going. The Back of the Cereal Box podcast, Tales of the Decoverse, my book series from Seventh Star Press, getting ready to release, and the League of Impossibilists, my cosplay group turned comic book series on the internet. But John Pica, JOHNPYKA at johnpica.com. Get you to all of that stuff.
And the YouTube show that you have now, the Back of the Cereal Box, can you give a little insight of what that show is all about?
Yeah, so it's a lot like what you're doing. When I was a kid, we didn't have an iPhone or an iPad, and when we're getting ready to go to school, eating breakfast, our entertainment was on the back of that cereal box. And so I wanted to kind of recapture that a little bit of that analog. And so we get together, my co-hosts and I, we sit down on the couch in the virtual living room with a big bowl of cereal every week. And while we're eating cereal, we talk about movies and TV and comic books and board games and cryptozoology and UFOs and whatever, is interesting to us. We always do a segment every week on, cool loot that we discovered that week, at a comic shop or at a board game store, whatever, bookstore, and it's just our opportunity to recreate the Saturday afternoons and the Saturday mornings that I had as a kid.
And it is a really great show, by the way, John. You have created something very special.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was blown away this morning. We had over 100 viewers this morning, and I was just like blown away. And we're averaging about 1,500 to 2,000 viewers on replay, and I just hope it, whatever it is, it's resonated with people. So I'm happy about that.
Well, it's all about the rising tide, and I do have to say Brian K. Morris definitely helps a lot of people, because I think that's what helped Christian too, is get the word out, because that's the way we should all be, not just here in podcast world, but everywhere. We should help each other. I mean, because once we all rise together, the world's a much happier place.
Yep.
So that's what I hope to continue with the Hanging with Web series, and just I'd like to have a bunch more podcasters come together and make this network a great network.
Yeah. So until next year, it's time to ring the bell.